Kenya is in the midst of a once-in-a-generation drought. Nearly 1 million children are at risk of starvation.
We've had a perfect storm. First we had the locusts, then we had the COVID-19, and now the drought. Really, really devastating.
Food prices have rocketed. In many parts of the country, there's no grass left for the cows, leading to deadly battles between communities.
I don't have a gun. I cannot protect her against somebody with a gun.
I'm travelling the length of the country to see how Kenyans are affected by this fight for food. This is Turkana province in the far north of Kenya, but it hasn't rained properly for more than 2 years. The grasslands have turned to dust. It's impossible to grow any food. The women and children have to walk and dig for hours to find water. The men, who normally look after the livestock, are almost at a loss for things to do.
Familia yangu, shauri ya nini? Kwa shauri nakosa kitu kwa family.
How many did you have before?
Kwa samani, inakuwa 400. Inakuwa 400 samani.
Turkana's nomadic herdsmen or pastoralists rely on their livestock for food and to sell for cash. But up to 85% of their animals have died during the drought. William spent his life as a herder, but has nothing left to show for it.
Do you think your grandchildren will be able to continue the traditional life that you've lived and your ancestors lived?
Saizi kuzi inaishi maisha ngine. Maisha hakuna nini, hakuna matunda, hakuna nini, maisha tu. Kwa ti maisha hiyo inaishi namna hiyo na hakuna kitu cha kukula na wako wapi? Kwa tumbo.
Rebecca is one of the few who still has some goats, but keeping them alive in this landscape has taken its toll.
If it stays like this and the rains don't come for another season, what do you think is going to happen to you and your family?
Living in the far north of Kenya means the only direction Rebecca and thousands of others can go is south, and that takes them into dangerous territory. I'm following the same journey, heading south to the breadbasket of Kenya, Laikipia. It's an area that receives plenty of rain, even when the rest of the country doesn't. But having plenty in a time of drought makes you a target. This is a community under attack. Almost every night, gunfire rings out here as bandits raid the farms, stealing crops and livestock. They cross into the fields from a neighbouring area where they've been illegally grazing their cows.
Are you Wilson?
I'm Wilson.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Seyi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
300 families have been forced from their homes here. Dozens of people have been shot, some killed. Until recently, there was a curfew here to try to contain the violence, but it didn't protect the farmers.
This is your homestead?
This used to be my home. I used to stay here. I have stayed here for more than 20 years. But now I cannot come here without soldiers.
Does it still feel like home?
It's not like a home anymore. You cannot stay here.
Wilson hasn't been back here for weeks, not since his wife was attacked.
She was shot from there.
Right here?
Right here. In the lane, in the mud, just lying down, shouting. I've been killed. I've been killed. You see?
Poor woman.
And the children were inside the home.
What's this?
You can see blood here. You see? Everything. This.
Blood.
Blood. Huh? Blood. But we are praising God because she is alive.
Like other families, they've had to leave and are now staying several miles away.
How are you?
I'm the one who was shot.
Oh dear.
Agnes says she was shot by the armed bandits who came to steal crops from their farm.
We don't have problem with them grazing. The problem is, why do they come and they kill us? Why do they come and they shoot us?
Do you think this drought is causing more problems for people?
Yeah,
here?
they are causing.
Do you feel like you've let your wife down?
Myself, I have not failed. I don't have a gun. I cannot protect her against somebody with a gun.
Speaking to Agnes and her husband, it's really clear that the violence in this area started exactly when the rains failed.
When I ask the farmers who they blame for this violence, one name comes up time and time again: the Pokot. Many in the Pokot community are herdsmen, and they have a fearsome reputation. Pokot men are heavily armed, many with assault rifles. They've been buying guns illegally for years to defend themselves against and to attack rival communities. In September, they were accused of killing 11 people, including 8 police officers, during a raid against rival herders. I've managed to find some Pokot herders who are willing to speak.
Looking after animals because of the drought.
Wilson and John have spent the last few months illegally grazing their cows in the nature reserve, the same one that the farmers claim they were attacked from.
How do other people treat you outside of this area?
Each community has their own way of marking the cows. The Pokot split their ears. Rival Samburu herdsmen brand their necks, others their rear ends.
There's a huge variety of cows here, red, black, white. They're clearly not all from the same herd. And speaking to the herdsman who've just brought them down from the conservation area, he'll freely admit to me that some of these aren't theirs at all. Sometimes the farmers say that the Pokot come and they take their maize, they take fruits. Sometimes they even take cows.
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
Have you done that yourself?
Yeah.
Do you feel bad?
Yeah.
Do you feel bad when you take someone's cow?
It's bad.
But before I can ask him anything else, he leaves to find a missing calf. The border between the nature reserve where the Pokot are illegally grazing their cows and the farms is now a front line in this increasingly deadly fight over food. There are those, though, that are trying to bring peace to the front lines, like Paul Njoroge, the community's mediator.
How dangerous are the Pokot pastoralists?
They are the greatest disaster we have ever encountered in our lives. More than 50% of the villagers have moved away.
Paul's been trying to speak with the Pokot for months.
So Paul, you're in charge of negotiating with the Pokot.
Yeah.
How has that gone?
It hasn't been so easy because some of them are so reluctant.
When you try and create an opportunity to sit and discuss with the Pokot elders, what happens?
They have been very mischievous. When we invite them, they bring young people, not the elders.
It soon becomes clear just how unsuccessful Paul's negotiations have been.
There is a militiaman who has been noticed by her from over there and has rushed inside the forest. We don't know whether they are coming this way or they are vacating this place. We don't know.
Let's look at that man.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can see. Someone is going inside the forest.
But seriously, Paul, we've heard they may be up there. What would you do in this situation? Does everybody clear the area?
Exactly, because they can come any moment.
Every day, more farms are abandoned. The farmers are too scared to harvest the crops they planted. It's market day in Amaya. Pokot herders have brought their best cows, goats and camels to sell to traders who'll take them to Kenya's capital, Nairobi. It's a spectacular event, a chance for the young men and women to dress up. After all, a young Pokot man with healthy cattle will soon have money to pay a dowry and get married. There are no paved roads here. There's no electricity and no running water. But for now, the Pokot have even more pressing issues to discuss. The village chief is hosting a peace meeting, trying to end the cycle of violence between the Pokot and the neighbouring Samburu people, who are fighting over the limited pasture. But the men he really needs to be persuading aren't here. I find Wilson and another herder a few miles down the road. He's still walking back with his cows from the nature reserve.
Do you think you'll go back to the conservation area? Some of the farmers in the area tell me that they're very afraid of the Pokot herdsmen. Why do you think they might be afraid of you? When I was on that side and I was with the farmers, they told me that they were being raided all the time, that their food was being stolen, their cows were being stolen. I even met people who were shot, and they always blamed the Pokot. What do you say about that?
In Pokot culture, there's no honour in stealing cattle from other communities. It's not something they're always willing to admit. The only thing more shameful would be having no cows at all. Next, I want to see how other herder communities are coping, so we drive east to visit the Samburu. It hasn't rained here all year. Most of the men have taken the surviving cows and goats to find pasture further south, leaving the women and children to fend for themselves. And many are barely surviving.
The child has been sick since he was tiny. The chest has been a problem. I'm saying he's severely malnourished. His score is less than -4 SD.
Which means, where is he on this chart?
Is less than what is here now.
He's off the chart?
Exactly off the chart.
Oh gosh.
Barkashon is 14 months old. He should weigh 10 kilos. Instead, he weighs less than 6. His arm measurement shows he's severely malnourished.
It really shows that pressure of the drought, having to move to find food for your animals, has a direct impact on the child.
If there's no milk from the livestock, there's no money. So all these things, the drought affects everything, down to the child.
According to the UN, more than 37 million people are facing acute hunger across East Africa. Here in Kenya, nearly 1 million children are in need of urgent food aid. Charities like Action Against Hunger provide most of the healthcare in these remote locations.
For people in Kenya, it didn't just start with the drought. You've had a hard few years.
We've had a perfect storm. First we had the locusts, then we had the COVID-19, and now the drought. Really, really devastating.
The war in Ukraine has seen food prices rise, and coupled with a lack of crops in Kenya, has put unimaginable pressure on families.
For the past 3 or 4 months, we've seen food doubling. A kg of maize flour was around 50 Kenya shillings. Now it's around 100 and up to 120.
These rises in food prices, is that because of the droughts?
Yes. Now that the animals have died or they can't fetch money in the markets, then you definitely have nothing else. You can see your child dying because you cannot access the health services.
The Samburu people are pastoralists and they're used to being self-sufficient. They take care of themselves, they have done for hundreds of years. But with the drought being this bad for so many years, it's clear that a lot of the children here, frankly, wouldn't be alive if it weren't for the assistance that they get.
And it's not just herders and farmers that have been devastated by the drought. Next, we drive to the southwest of Kenya, to the Mau Forest. Traditionally beekeepers, the Ogiek community have lived in the forest for generations. But 3 years ago, the government evicted them and thousands of others because of illegal logging and poaching. They now live on the outskirts.
We are indigenous. Now we are hunters and gatherers. Hiyo ni kitu inajulikana. Lakini kwa sababu ni kama bado wanaendelea tu kugeuka haki zetu kwa sababu unakuja kuninyima zile chakula na hakuna chakula umeniletea kwa meza.
They've tried farming and keeping livestock, but like so many other places in Kenya, the drought has caused their crops to fail. So they've gone back to poaching. They know it's illegal, but say they have no choice.
Tuone kama tutajaliwa na Mungu, tupate chakula.
We can't go with the hunters, so instead we give them a camera to film their hunt.
Isiole yaigwe mui. Mara iti koite bot weriga marmar weri mogote bene teben.
They head to where they've previously set some traps, avoiding armed rangers who patrol the forest. But there's just too much competition for food here. They're hoping to poach a squirrel-like creature called a hyrax. They're highly prized by the Ogiek and are usually easy to find. But after several hours, they come back empty-handed.
Imekuwa wachache kwa sababu watu ni wengi. Wa kutoka nje, sio sisi ndani. Watu wanatoka nje.
On top of the loss of their ancestral land, drought and competition for food is finally destroying the Ogiek's way of life. Our final destination is a 7.5-hour drive to the southeast to see the other side of the poaching divide in Tsavo National Park, one of the world's biggest game reserves. Down here, the park's anti-poaching rangers are working overtime.
So hii ni team 1. So kama si hakuna maneno kwa sababu ya masaa.
Collapsing incomes in recent years has led to a huge rise in poaching for food from nearby communities. First blamed on COVID, now on the drought.
Each team is made up of 2 park rangers and 1 person from the Kenyan Wildlife Service. They're armed, and they're the only people in Kenya who have permission to shoot poachers on sight.
It's perfect conditions for poachers to sneak into the park. We stay silent, lights switched off, to keep the element of surprise.
Roja, karibu na ile mbuyu.
Kwa moyo tu ukitoka tu kwa hiyo mto pale gari ilikuwa inasimama na mwangaza ilikuwa inaonekana.
The rangers have seen a torchlight flashing in the darkness.
Light ilikuwa kwa hiyo mawe lakini imesima saa hii. Light iko kwa hiyo mawe lakini imesima.
Nateremka. Taangalia tu nikuja. Kama iko kitu wanaona.
We wait in the dark, listening. Then we get the signal to follow and catch up with Benjamin.
Fortunately, they ran away. Right. Yeah, we all came down the river, and when they saw our lights, they ran away.
Are they always armed?
Yeah, most of the time they are armed at night.
How serious is this problem? Like, since the drought started, has it got worse?
So it's now 2 years. Yeah. We are not sleeping. We are not. Yeah, we are out in the bush every day, patrolling at daytime, and at night. This is what we do. Daily. So we have to be vigilant, we have to be more aggressive to them, otherwise they will kill everything here.
And it's not just humans that are desperate. Kenya's wildlife is hungry and thirsty too.
Here are the 2 tusks.
One.
And then the other one is here.
The other one there. And it just...
Yeah, lifted and threw it away. So the whole thing was on top of the house.
Yeah.
3 of this kind of houses that they've done this. And kids in there.
Really? Sleeping in there?
Oh yeah, people sleeping in there. Then they put their trunk. This is how bad it is.
How often does this sort of thing happen?
I mean, this is the first time we've ever had elephants actually walking into homesteads and actually dismantling roofs and getting off food in the middle of people. This will go down in history as one of the most tough, severe drought that in our lifetime.
So this is your house?
Yeah.
Boniface, tell me, when you were lying in bed and the roof was ripped off, how did that feel?
Nimesikia roho ikitetemeka sana vile niliona kabisa hii ni ndovu na ninajua ndovu, maneno ya ndovu vile inakula mtu. Sasa niliona nikastuka sana. Nilikuwa na hasira mbeleni, lakini vile nikakuja tu nikafikiria tu hii ni mambo ya ukame tu ndio inafanya hiyo maneno yote.
Save the Elephants are helping Boniface rebuild his house. But with so many elephant attacks in the area, the charity's costs are spiralling. It's not just food the elephants search for, but water too. They often destroy pumps and water tanks, leaving villagers angry.
Have you heard about people actually going out and attacking elephants in revenge?
Yes, there's an area just to the north of us here where this notorious males, they kept going back and breaking pipes and breaking this. And eventually people got so fed up, they were hunting elephants.
Thanks to global pressure, there's no longer a market for ivory. But revenge attacks have become as big a threat to elephant populations here as ivory once was. So conservationists are having to protect them again. Not from trophy hunters, but whole communities and the unpredictable climate. It's bath time for these orphaned baby elephants. But it hasn't rained properly in Tsavo for 3 years. So the Sheldrick Trust brings in truckloads of water for them.
The orphans come here after being orphaned due to several reasons. One being drought-related cases, like they get stuck in mud or they fall into wells and their mothers are unable to get them out. Then we rescue them and bring under care. The other one is human-wildlife conflict.
The Trust has rescued 20 in the past 2 months and provides food and water to over 1,000 rescued and wild elephants to stop them attacking local communities.
Blow in?
Yeah. That's how we say hi.
But they can't help all of the 13,000 elephants in the park, and over 100 elephants have starved to death this year. After years of drought, Kenyan people have little left to share. Wildlife is Kenya's heart, but its communities are the country's soul. Another year without rain will bring those communities into more conflict and could eradicate their way of life for good.